Good evening, everyone. Can everybody see me? Can everybody hear me? Had a little bit of technical issue then. Couldn't figure out what was going on. But can everybody hear me? Well, I heard myself on my iPad, so I guess everybody can. Yes, I'm having a great birthday today, everybody. Thank you very much. It's great. I've enjoyed it. John, good evening to you. Wendy, good evening. Michael, good evening to you. Ben, good evening to you, sir. Good. I'm glad you can see and hear me. I don't know what I'm doing here at the moment. It's gone a little bit pear-shaped on the setup, but hopefully you can see everything. Just put my fingers there to the top and the bottom. I think we're good. And I'm just going to check the bottom. Yes, we're good there. Okay, so right. Derek, good evening to you, sir. We'll wait a few minutes. Just let everybody come in before we get cracking. Hopefully I won't mess this one up. There's always a first time for all of this, so it can easily happen. Like finding a pencil that actually works would be good too. There we go, that's working. The lid is changing in the other one. Have you had the haircut? Just a little one, just a little bit. I got so fed up with it that my son and his girlfriend came round and set to with the clippers. And yeah, there you go. So a lot less on here. So glad I've done it, really. There's actually a few patches in there now, but it just shows how thin one's getting as one gets older. But there you go. That's the way of the world. We've all to get older. Right. Okay, so we'll give it a little bit more before we get started, if that's all right with everybody. It's only just 7 o'clock, and I do believe that I actually set the time wrong on the premiere. So it may be that people are expecting this in 2 hours' time. I do hope that's not the case. I didn't realise until about 5 minutes ago that it was too late to do anything about it then, but hopefully people who are regular will know that it is at 7 and not at 9 something. So there you go. Right, now then, okay, sorted, yeah, that's the one. It is sorted. All right, Sue, good evening to you, and thank you very much for your birthday wishes as well, Sue. Thanks for everybody who sent me birthday wishes today. And yeah, so yeah, it's set up for 9:40. Heck knows why I did that. I was sure I said it at 7, but hey ho, it's the way it is. I do hope that people will not miss out, and if they do, unfortunately they'll have to watch the whole stream backwards, as it were. But we shall see what happens. Right, I am just going to move my reference material and covering up the vast majority of my OBS system so I can see what it is. I just lost the image. Good start. Okay, so there we are. I've got the image ready to go, and we are 10 people in, and that's fantastic. So let's get started, I think, before I put everybody to sleep. Okay, so we're looking at Venice tonight, and I'm using some 300-pound Arches paper. It's a great paper. It's very thick, very heavy, and keeps the water going in the paper for a long time. So it gives you a lot of wiggle room when it comes to doing washes and one thing and another. So hopefully this is going to be not too difficult. Yeah, I thought when I looked at it, it was a bit of a challenge for a 2-hour stream, but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to simply come down the page and I'm just looking at the angle. It's around about, I'm using the angle on the pen to roughly where the angle is on the building line. Now they do curve a little bit. It's not exactly a straight line. If you put a rule on the reference photo, you'll see how the walls do change. But I'm just going to put it down there, and I want it fairly low in the angle like that. So I'm going to come down there like that, maybe. May even be, just looking at it, I might even take it up to there actually and let that come through there. And then just erase the first one. Don't get confused further on. Okay. I cut this paper, meant to be square. It's 1/2 centimetre out. Don't ask me what I was thinking at the time. Joan, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Glad you're there. And I know one of my other ladies, one of my patrons, is also possibly watching on the side. So good evening to you too. Now I'm just going to plot the boat, really. And I want to look at the bow coming up quite high, somewhere like that. And it will taper down, so I'm going to put the boat in there. I don't want to make it too big, so actually that could be considered a little high. Let's just start it there. We can always come back in and play around with the idea, and you get this sort of shape like a figure of 8. If you can do that, like almost looping round and coming back on yourself, something of that nature, you get the idea of the situation with the boat. And then you just can come that side like so, just sort out the bow and the taper, and you come in like something of that nature. Now if it's not quite right, you don't have to live with this shape at all. You can come down, use it as a guide, but bring it over a lot sooner, which we can't see too much of the inside. So we've got this nice shape here, nice wide back going back over there, and this will come up and over the top. So now we've got a very similar shape to our first one, but we've just corrected some of the marks. And we're going to look at that again and see if we have to do anything else. But for, I think, to begin with, that's all we need. We just need to have a basic shape of our boat. We've got the part here, which are not a seat, I guess that is what that will be. And then we can come back down with the side. And it's very tapered, so don't just assume it's a flat plank like I just did. It's a very much of tapered shape of that nature, and it comes around the edge. I don't know what they call these, a gum rail, I'm not quite sure now, it's a long time. But then it tapers off there. It's got that little nick in the top, so take that bit out and we have that shape just there, which is really nice. Comes all the way round and up to, gets very, very thin and stops just short of the top of the bow there. And then we can put that section in there, and we can start looking at this side. Now this side obviously should be pretty much a mirror. Depending on the foreshortening angle, it should be almost a mirror of what we see. But this line here comes up, the same as this one does here. This one comes up about there. So we get a very different shape going on at that point. And we can take some of this out just to get that about right, like so. And then we've got the edge coming down in that fashion. And then we've got that comes to a point there. And then we've got a nice curvature around here going down the side, but the side will come in something a bit pinched like so, and we come round. So that pretty much is the shape of our small boat that's moored up on the side. We have a pole which we can indicate just about there. Now we know the wall at this point starts to curve, whereas I've got that line in there, this line starts to curve a little flatter. So I'm going to put a line here which is about 1/3 of the way up from there, and just gently set that up like so. And that will also then give us enough room to bring this pole down into the water, somewhere like that, but away from the boat in this way. It could actually be, this would suggest that we have this pole somewhat closer. It is almost touching that side. So let's just change where we put that now. Let's bring that into the water somewhere like that, and we can play around with the details later. Trees, a good evening to you. Nice of you to join us. Hopefully this is going to be right up your street. I'm just putting a few of the little boat shapes. Now these are very, I'm guessing that the type of boat here, I don't know what it would be used for, whether it's carrying goods. I'm guessing it probably would carry some goods. But it's got a very, very pretty type of design, which we do need to pay a lot of attention to. Now we've got this lovely suggested reflection coming down through here on the boat like so. Just going to put an indication in that, and because I do want to change it later. But already we're starting to build our picture. Now I'm going to use this line through here to give me this angle for the buildings, and then we've got this bridge. Now I'm just going to put an upright here because there is a door somewhere there. Okay, and there are lots of doors. There are tall doors. So you can actually, you can't even put a line on here in with any degree of certainty as to give yourself a line of sort of infinity. You can't sort of take a line off and make it become your vanishing point, because all these buildings, they are not straight lines. They curve, they stop, and they sort of slightly shallower. The doors and the windows are all over the show. We've got one that's behind here, so let's just put that one in. It's quite stout and it's quite small. So look at the way that the archway is. You can see more of this point here than you can see of anything on here. So let's bring that down like so. Let's take that down there. There's a little notch in the wall where the edge is, and the brick comes in, something like that. There is a similar one on this side, which I haven't put in, but we're going to suggest it there. Now this area here, if you could see through there, you would have almost like a small tunnel in a sense, because this is a big recess of stone that goes back to a door just in here out of sight somewhere. So let's take that as said, and all our lines here should be, these ones should be vertical, absolutely vertical. If the archway is still in part of its shape, then of course that will affect that line there, but when it comes to this here, it does straighten up. Okay, now what I'm also just going to do, and this is a good tip, if you're doing a pretty extensive drawing, yeah, that's true enough with Mike. I had a call from him the other day, Sue. He's asking when can he come back to class, so hopefully we're going to start getting the classes back together now. Okay, so I'm resting on here because the more I put my hand on here, there's natural grease and oils in my hand. So if I want to do a lot of drawing, it's best just to do this, and then we got some idea. Now here we've got two dark windows, and they're roughly coming this way down, and they are just above this arch panels, and they go up about to here. Now it's going to be touch and go whether we get everything on here as per the picture. Now you can see the angle here is going all the way down here, and this one is all going through here like so. You can put and suggest a line of infinity for the lintels and the window sills. So I'm going to put one in there. These will be dead level, and this one will go in here. It's somewhat shorter or narrower than the first. Now we've got two windows in, and that's pretty sort of rough. It's not exact, but we can take the same line down through here, and we can put these two much taller ones in right on the edge here, and we can take those, this angle here, if we can imagine a line going up through to there, they will be something like that. So now we've got two more windows. I'm not suggesting that my lines will be absolutely spot on. I'm only going to get one of those windows in on this image because the width of this is different to that format of the photographic reference, and I don't want to squeeze them in stupidly, so let's just go for the one. and we can put the top lintel in, or the framework, and that will go to there, and that will come through. So we've got a face, and then we've got the shadow section. That's what I was trying to get to. So bring the face down and the shadow section in like so, and then we've got a dark recess, and we've got the lintel at the bottom, or the sill. So that gives us two windows here. We can't see too much above here. In fact, if anything, this window should go up a tad more to there. When I look at it, I think it's quite a way higher. So let's just lose that. Let's put that in there, bring that down through there, and then we've got that part as the recess on that piece of stonework. So there's those two. All right, let's come this side. Let's just take this up and let us put here. Now I can't quite see whether this is the end of a building here. It does seem to be part of another doorway that juts out. Whether it's a blocked up one, whether that's a small avenue of water which is hidden by the stern of the boat, I can't tell you. But it is just a suggestion of something there. It is quite a bit higher than this door, and there does seem to be a division of mortar or brickwork that comes right the way down through at this point here. Something of that nature. Now we have a couple of small windows. Using these same sorts of lines again, they are quite high. There are three of them. But you've got to look now at where we've got to fit all this in, because I'm running out of room a little bit. So I'm going to put a division of there. And this is where I'm going to have to start getting a little bit creative with space. I'm going to put another one in there. And then we're going to get concertinaed up. I do need to get this bridge in. So let's just concentrate on this bridge first. I'm going to put in a shape here, and just start the idea of a shape there, and they have this beautiful arcing movement all the way like so, and then the top, and the brickwork in here does come out wider at this point, and then it arches as the lovely edge of the brickwork meets. It does almost disappear, not quite but almost. Then you've got the dark scallop shape of the underneath, because we can see from a very low angle where we're at with this bridge. We can bring it down through like so, and then we've got a little bit on here. Let's just take that up, and I'm going to just shade that in so you can see roughly what's the underneath of the bridge. And we've got a little bit of light, and then we've got the reflection coming off there. And there's a little footbridge, not footbridge, there is a little sort of step piece more of the quay. This is all part of the bridge complex, and it comes back and is the entrance to this doorway. So we've got a little area there. I'm just going to suggest it like so and do that. Yes, he's very well. He's itching to get going again, basically. We had a long chat, and he's sort of, I think he's just had enough of being locked down, as many of us probably have. Right, so then there's a couple of windows here. Now, I'm not actually going to put too much reference in there. I'm just indicating that there are some more windows in that fashion, like so. There are also ones that are high up here, and you've got balconies and other windows, and I'm not going to try and put each and every one in. There is one just off the top here, then I'm going to come back, there's one somewhere about there, and we have two areas here which are going to have to be addressed. There is a window, a door here, which is lower than this one. So now this one, is it tall enough? I'm not too sure. I think it could actually come up a little higher. So I'm going to suggest that now. I'm going to bring that up a little more. Take the eraser, take a little bit of that material out of the way, so we don't really need all that information. We can see where we've drawn our doorway. And then there are huge arches and doors. I'm not quite sure. This one really seems to go way up. There are a couple of windows there, and this large door arch, certainly an archway there. I think maybe the door is a lot shorter. There does suggest a big display of archway there, or I don't know. That's how it looks. Hard to tell. There are so many different building designs within Venice, if I'm not mistaken. There are a couple of windows there, as I've said, and they are this. Even this is going to come down, this little window, because these meet it halfway there, and then this is up, way up, close to it. So, yeah, it's actually quite sort of trying to work out heights of some of these things. But it doesn't seem to matter what building you go to, the architecture just slightly different. I suppose that many of these buildings were built over many generations, I'm sure. And there's a couple of windows at the top there, and then we've got a couple of poles, got another, and we've got 3 windows that I suggested here, didn't I? So we've got this large thing going on here, but then we've got 1, 2, 3 windows, very quick succession, and that's pretty much all we've got. We've got the bottom of something going on here. I'm guessing that is a lamp or some sort of apparatus on the top there. We've got a piece of missing mortar on there, and that will come down to meet these windows, something of that nature. So pretty much that's our drawing of Venice done. There is a couple of things that I really ought to put in. Now let's just go back to this bridge a moment. We've got a lovely set of balustrade ironwork that comes down like so. It's got a lovely shape to it. I'm not going to do too much about it. I just want to suggest that for the moment, and just suggest some of these supports and leave it at that. And up on the wall here above this door is a wonderfully exotic shaped lamp. It's got a huge shape to the support arm. It comes down, and little kink in it there, so that needs to come out a little bit more than I've allowed. Just go back in and take that out more generously like so, and then come back into the plate on the wall. And then we've got a wonderful shape to the lattice work to the top of this big lamp, and whatever the shape, it's very hard to see everything from this distance, but then we come down like something of that nature, something like that. And there's our light, and we've got these other windows and doors which we've got to address, pots, plants, and 1 or 2 other things. Now with regards to this, looks like a little buffer buoy. I'm not going to put that in. I don't think it's actually necessary. It's obviously to stop some boats clouting the bridge architecture, which obviously over time is becoming a lot more fragile. Boats can be repaired. These bits of architecture are somewhat more difficult to sort out in that fashion. Yeah, so I think we're pretty much ready to start going. Mark, good evening to you. Sylvia, thank you for joining. Have you shown the finished? Ah, that's a very good point. I actually haven't shown the water lilies yet. Thank you very much, Sylvia. Let me get it. Now, I did work on this. I wasn't sure if I would have time. You know, I was having to get prepped for the birthday celebrations this morning, so didn't know if I'd have time to do it, but I did, and there we are. Hopefully you can see that. And I have done quite a bit of work on it, as you can see. There's probably another 3 hours of work that was done during the course of the following day. So there you go. I'll leave it there for a few seconds so that you can see it, and hopefully you get something from that. Any questions on it, please ask. That's not a problem. But let's say the water lilies, I've enjoyed painting this. It's been a bit of fun. I put a lot more lights, and I certainly started looking at some of these clefts in the leaf structure. I actually built up the lights and darks within the bud, and actually more so on here. There was it when I looked at it in the morning, it looked just a little bit dull, so I actually then really pumped up the value. And the one big thing that made all the values really work was the fact that I went over all this brown that was in the background with almost a mix of dark blue and umber. So there was a real big swing between the warms to the cools, and those cools reacted really well with the greens. And yeah, I think it just worked out. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. So hopefully you got something from that. And I suppose now I better start thinking about painting lilies. Not lilies. Oh God, I got lilies on the brain. Better start painting Venice, hadn't I? But you can see in here that there is still quite a bit of the brown coming through the painting, but there are additional blues scattered over the place, so it gives it this sort of warm cool, and you can't quite what's going on. Yeah, thanks John. As I say, the whole thing was about this, with this one as a supporting act, and everything else then just hopefully flowed in, and especially this piece of dark water flowing in and up to, with the stem of the plant making that final jump of dark to the leaves at the base, and hopefully that then supports the whole crown of the flower. So yeah, thank you Judy, I didn't realize you was there. Thanks for joining us. Glad you made it, and thank you for your wishes today. I did answer you as well. I think I've got a whole load on Facebook to answer in the morning, and thank them for their good wishes. So if anyone comes on later, hasn't seen that, wants to see that water lily painting, then I will just turn around and bring it back into the frame again. Okay, now then, the painting. We're going to work from light to dark. So I'm going to go in with some fairly good washes, and I've got 3 pans here that are all cleaned out, and I want to give my lovely Venice picture a whole a sense of cool. It's very atmospheric. There's a lot of bright light going on. All the walls are very light on these buildings, and you see the subtleties of the darker, the subtle nuances of all the brickwork and different bits and pieces moving on further in. And so yeah, I think that this is going to be a matter of washes and see how they go. It may be that we keep some of the whites, but it may be that we lose some of those and may have to come back in with a bit of body colour towards the end. Let's just see how we go. Right, I nearly stuck my brush in my drink. One of those. Gonna be one of those. Right, I'm gonna put a lot of water into the pan because I want more water than I want pigment. So I'm just gonna get that out of the way, and let's have a look. So I'm going to use some raw sienna. I'm going to use 1 pot of raw sienna. Lots of lovely pigment, and don't forget that even though we want it light and we want a lot of it, mix a lot of it so that you don't have to keep going back and trying to remix. And all the time you do that, of course, you've got a situation where your the edge of your wash is drying up on you. Not so bad with this heavy paper, but you have a lighter paper, then you're going to run into trouble. And I'm going to mix another one. I know there's a bit of contamination there, but I want to mix a cooler colour. For that, I'm going to use a bit of cobalt, and it's going to turn it a little greenish, but it's a very faint, cool blue colour compared to that one. Wash my brush out, and let's see where I want to go with next. I want to put in some, a little bit of Indian red, just come on the end here, a little bit of Indian red, but to that one I'm not going to stick with that just. I'm going to put some quinacridone gold into that. Now that's a transparent yellow gold colour, and that shifts it from there to this. Maybe a tap more of the red just to kill it down a little bit and see where that goes. Alright, now we're going to start doing the painting, and be warned, there is going to be a little bit of hairdryer work going on later. So, alright, I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to come in with a bigger brush, a bigger mop, a good big mop brush like that. Look at the water. You saw how big that was just now. Look how that is just thinned down to this, and that is just full up with water. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to literally wash the whole of this top part. I will possibly come down probably the whole thing. I think this is brave. I don't normally do this, gotta say. It's a bit brave of me. It's probably because it's my birthday, and I think if it all goes wrong, you'll be very, very forgiving. And just put it down to my age. Okay, now this is quite wet now, and that's fine. Just give it a very even douse. Working wet in wet for a little while until we dry this out. And that means to say I don't need this brush again for that job unless I really want to. I actually have a slightly smaller one here, which is a Joseph Spookvit. Oh, what's happened? Something's gone wrong, I think. Have I done something? Let's get rid of what's going on here. No, we're still here. Something happened on my screen. I do apologise. I see you're all still there, which is a bonus. I've got a slightly smaller one, which is an Escoda brush by, sorry, it is a Joseph Spookvit model brush by Escoda. And it is an extremely nice brush, as is this one, which is a much bigger one, and this is by Rosemary & Company. And the squirrel mops, and they just hold water, and they do great big washes. So I'm going to mix a little bit more colour up now, because this is going to go pretty fast, and I want to put that in and let that flow. I have a slight angle on my brush. I picked up a little bit of dark there, which is slightly contaminated, which I didn't really want. I'm going to have to remix that again. And that's the problems and the risk you run by having dirty palettes. Let's just mix that colour and fresh colour again and not be so sloppy. And let's just come back in and put that back through. Let that come all the way down if you wish to. It's not a problem. Like so. Let's come in with some of this colour. It's slightly... as I said, this one's got a lot more red into it. I'm going to pick some more of that out. I never mix enough. I certainly didn't with that. See the influence of the gold in there then? So I'm going to come in here, let that come all the way down through. Not even going to attempt to try and save any of the whites. Just going to let that come all the way down. Now there you see a little bit of area where the water was resisting. That's probably a little bit of grease off my hand, if I'm honest, and easily missed. I'll tap a little bit of blue coolness down in there. Where are we? Okay, so a little bit cooler, a little bit more blue, and just dropping colours in like so. And that sort of do what it wants to do. And it's going to mix, it's going to run, it's going to do all sorts of things. Little sort of lovely little bits of coo, maybe even a little bit of violet in there, just to play around with some of these shapes in here. Like that. They're going to bleed, don't worry about it. Nice shape in there, and on these two windows here. There's quite a cool colour in there and separating those two buildings, and then we have quite a greenish colour in the water. Now I'm going to not try and paint that straight off. I'm going to just come in with one or two areas like this that are suggestive and let the paint really do what it wants to do. When you get a big build up of water like this, either put a piece of paper to it just to take it off. You don't really need it there. It's not going to do you any favours at all. I'm going to use some phthalo green now, and I'm going to use into that phthalo green, I'm going to put a bit of cobalt to that and just take that down a little bit, and maybe a touch of the yellow, and give me that lovely icy green that you see in the water in the Venetian side streets. And I'm just going to come in and very suggestive, I'm drawing with the brush, very, very suggestive of all these little colours and shapes and forms in the doors, of the doors, things like that. We're coming down to a very, very pale colour here, but it could be, it does need some colour. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to suggest that warmth splash there, in there, down to the bottom, like so. And just going to put in a little bit more ochre in there, just leave them to set up. A little hair there, which is annoying. I hate that. It does dry out sometimes with a little bit of colour that's sort of set to it as it's drawn it in. Okay, I've got very wet hands running through tons of paper, as you'd expect. But that's pretty much set up. I just want to lose that little bit there. Give that a bit of pigment just to play around with in there and lose that. And you can see that where we put that big piece of blue in there is pretty much just gone. It's dissipated, it's mixed, it's blended, it's run away. And that's no problem at all. Just take these off the bottom so we get some solid colour all the way through to the bottom of the page. Again, it's just personal in this regard. You don't have to. Just take some of these out. Right, I'm just going to take a piece of paper and run it all the way along there, because what I don't want is the paper to become a problem, because what can happen, I've said it before, see that there, I've lifted it, but it will run back in. But this is still building up more. If I leave, the paper here will dry at a different rate than this tacky paper, whatever type of tacky paper you use. And the problem is that once this is dried up, then this is still wet, and what happens is any moisture on here wants to push back and create a awful type of backflow, which you don't really want. So always try and keep anything down here a little bit dry. If you don't want to use a piece of paper towel, dry out a brush as best you can and use that. But now I'm going to go and get the hairdryer. I'm just going to dry this up so we can carry on. So now's the time to mute if you want to. You've had fair warning. Now, like always, I'm going to start this quite high, and then slowly, as I'm more confident, I don't want to push any paint around unnecessarily, we'll come back into it. Okay. You can see here that a lot of water has just been pushed off, so taking the brush in this case, take out all the moisture you can and just let that run along and let that suck off all that moisture so that it doesn't cause me a problem, because as this dries it's still going to try and do that. It's still going to try and push back against any drier areas, because all the water wants to do is keep moving. So I'm just taking a little bit of care just to take these areas off, and let's go back in and carry on drying it. Okay, I don't know, I saw a bit of lagging on mine. Ben, did we lag for a short second or two back then? I seem to see on my iPad there seemed to be a bit of a lag. I hope not, but it can happen, of course. Right, okay, so it's dried off. Now, two things. One, you know it will become a whole lot lighter than the colour that you first saw go on. Secondly, I said to you about getting all the moisture off. There's a little bead right on the side of the paper there that despite all the hairdryer work, it's still showing up as wet. So that could cause a problem. Just take it off. Done. But if you don't see these things, they do run the risk of okay, Ben, that's great, no lag. Okay, I just must have been here. We have had quite a few internet problems of late, so I'm a little bit worried that things won't go exactly to plan, but hopefully they will. Okay, I don't know if my getting the wrong time has made a few people not turn up. We're sort of 17 people. We're down to 16 now. Oh dear. Right, okay, so perhaps they couldn't put up with the hairdryer too long. Let's come in with some more values now. We are working progressively towards dark. So let's just take a look at the next part of our plan. This has got a nice shaft of light through that, but here we've got a different colour going on. So I'm going to deal with this area first and just going to clean out some of these palettes. We will come back in on some of it, but let's just clean them out for the time being. There we go. All right. Okay. So now then, let's look at mixing up. So I'm going to come back in using the idea with the raw sienna again. It's quite lively and we want to temper that a little bit. The way to temper it and putting another layer on, make enough colour, but temper it down with a bit of violet. In this case, some ultramarine violet will take that away from the pure yellow, just dirties it up, but doesn't make it green. Okay, now let's look at putting another value of yellow, some Indian yellow, very, very strong pigment, and let's just put some of that value to that. Now that is a livelier yellow than that, and I actually might go between the two. Okay, so I'm just going to come right the way across. There seems to be a shaft of light that comes down just around this. I'm just going to bring that all the way down like so, and using this thicker brush and let that come in a nice line down to the edge of the window like that. And I'm going to take that all the way across out of here like so, and let that come all the way down. I'm going to let the paint run out because it does get a lot more paler. I'm going to take that to there. I want this as a hard line. I'm just going to straighten that up now. Right, so I'm using my little finger as a rest, but I think that works. It's a little, it could come down, actually it could come down a little closer to that one. So that's why we can. Let's just take that down in a single line again, taking it a little closer to that other window. I missed that. Straighten that up before I end up at the other window. Take that down to a nice point like so. Okay, happy with that. And let's bring that same value down through here. It will dry up, as I said, lighter. Had I had more room on this painting, I could quite happily have gone closer to that other window. There is quite a dominant reddish colour that's seeping in on the side. I'm just going to put that in. Take that down the edge of this window like so, and let that comes down to about there. I'm just going to leave it at that and leave that alone. All right, let's come back into the next section. I'm going to take the edge of that off like that because it's going to build a lot of water and that's going to build up. Let's come back with the same colour which I've lost. I'm going to come back in and remix. Add a lot of yellow in it. Bit of that violet going into it. That's way too much. Take that out. Come back. There. Okay, that's probably a little closer to where we were. And we've got this lovely golden light going up above these windows. here, which I'm going to put in. Bring that right the way through that area there and round there. I'm going to leave that at that point. It does sort of become, I think it's part of broken architecture, so I'm going to leave that and make a suggestion that that's a right angle there, and then that can come down through these two windows down through to this archway, and it will become cooler as it comes down. For that coolness, I'm going to use a little bit of ultramarine blue. It's got a little bit contaminated, so let's just clean that up and go with that. So I'm going to bring that down through these windows here and into the area of this. There's a bit of red in there too. Come back for some Indian red and bring that into there, down the side. And we don't want to get too dark because we've got our boat, and of course we've got the light around here, which we probably will come in with some body colour. Because I've gone over it with other colour, it may be that we can get away with it, it may be that we need to do something about that. Let's just come in across the top, down the side, and take it to there, to the edge of the boat, no closer. And now we can start building. Okay, we're going to put in a bit of blue in here, just literally taken off the palette and plonk straight in and let it do what it wants to do. And I use a little bit of the burnt sienna this time, and just pop in the edge of whatever this is, just the start of it. It's not the whole deal. It is just merely suggesting what is going on with that there. I don't know what it is quite. In fact, I want to lift some of that out because there's quite a white or pale step there, which we will have to darken up and come back in on and leave it like that. And it's the whole thing about the Venetian brickwork or sort of all this sort of stuff that's going on is that it's just multifaceted everywhere. It's just, you know, lots of lovely lights and darks. There's a light that comes down from there, which I need to bring in, and that yellow comes through to here, which needs to be put in like so. I'm going to make that window a little less, something like that, coming down the side of that one, and then we've got the base that goes off into there like that. And then we've got more cool. We're going to have some more violets and a bit more blue. Not that much blue, just a bit more blue. Just run that all the way through there like so, and let that bleed down, because that will then work nicely with the edge of the boat. And I will try and keep some of the light of the boat so that we can work around that sort of shape. Take that down through there like that, down the edge of that. We can work with that further on. A little bit of red come into this part here of the bricks. We've got the pole, which I'm not worried about at this point. And then we've got this lovely lush green colour, a little bit of phthalo green into that yellow green we've already had, and just bring that down tight against the edge of the boat. Take that all the way through here to the waterline. So there we are, and that's where we're going to leave that. I'm just going to take the edge off of this. I don't want any problems with this going backwards. We've got a lovely set of colours going on there at the moment, and we're going to leave that. Charmaine, good evening to you, and thank you for your birthday wishes. Very kind. Appreciate that. Where's the present? Is it in the post? I didn't mind if you just sent the car keys ahead of time, because at least I've had an idea. But the actual main part of the present hasn't turned up yet. I keep opening the window curtains just to see when it turns up. And I guess the delivery driver will have the keys for the car with him. At least I hope so. Righto. Okay, being silly, I know. Okay, we're going to have a bit of a cool colour and a bit of this red. Oh, my...
1 moment.
Sorry about that. My Siri come on. Obviously didn't like what I was saying. I'm going to come down through here, and we've got a whole mishmash of warms and cools. I'm going to use a little bit of orange and some of that just to warm some of this up. A little bit of cooler. I want it a little bit more Indian red going into that. I think one or two places, certainly through here and here on these windows. Let that come down the side, and it's suggestive that the building is of a different architecture. Right, so I'm going to leave that. I quite like what that's doing actually. I'm going to take that off to the top just to give that an even finish. I better just do that so that it doesn't suddenly create a wash back, and it can happen. And I'll come back in the same sort of colours down through here. Little side movement just to suggest that there is brickwork and building and architecture. All the way down here, it does get a little bit heavier as it comes down towards the boat here and the back end and the architecture. And maybe a little red. I'm going to put a bit of vermilion to that. Just bring that through here. Take that to there. Be careful of the back end of the boat. There's quite a lovely set of colours which we could do with keeping. And let that come down like so. Alright, now if any of this you feel is too dark, there's nothing stopping you coming back in, damp brush, just lift some of this pigment back out in one or two places to give you that little effect. Alright, and very similarly, there's a little bit of broken stuff up here, very different colouring to the wall that surrounds it. It looks like that the plaster has been removed or has come away quite cleanly, so I'm just going to pick up some of that pigment, and you've got two ways. You can keep working it with a brush like this to give you that, or indeed you can just go back in with a clean dab of towel and just lift some of that pigment back out and give you that extra variation that you might be looking for. Equally, I think that this is picking up more light at the top here, so I'm just work the damp back into the paint before it really gets home dry, and just lift some of that pigment back off like so. I think that's fine, no problem with that at all. If you're not happy with it and you want to go back in, and I'm not too sure, I'm just going to put in a little tap of pure Indian yellow into that dampness. It's probably a little too aggressive, so I'm going to let that play around and let that come down and let that dissipate into that shape like so. I like that. There's not a problem with that at all. There's lots of things going on and lovely colour. Okay, I'm going to live with that. I think here I might have a problem, so I'm just going to lift off. There's a little bit of water that was kicking out there, and as much as it can happen down here, it can happen up there too. It doesn't matter, so just be aware of that. Just play around with that, get rid of that if you can, and hopefully that won't come back to haunt you. Alright, at this rate I'm going to run out of kitchen roll. Okay, but it's having a lot of fun. Alright, now I'm going to clean this piece out and carry on. I'm going to stay with the fresh yellow, Indian yellow theme, and I want to come down here and suggest one or two subtle changes in there, bit of vermilion to that, and let that come down in here a little bit warmer into there in that part of the building, and down to what will become even more brickwork, and therefore a little bit of red just to suggest that coming down into there like so, and into what is again the waterline. Okay, how are we doing? I need a bit of a glug, I'm afraid. Alright, now I have had a request for next Monday's oil, and what I quite like the idea actually. I'm going to be doing a very English summer, and I did a couple of these a few years ago and one last year, and they were just lovely little oils of trees and fields, but it's just quintessentially English countryside based on a bit of landscape at the back of Saltwood, beyond where the castle is. And I just somebody liked that and asked would I do a demonstration theme based on that, and so I thought it was a really nice idea. So that's what we're going to be doing on Monday, which is going to be literally a oil stream of a very English countryside. I hope you enjoy that. I'm just looking at some of these shapes leading up to this door, and you can see I'm using dry brush, and I'm also dabbing it. I've got very wet sections, and it will give me all sorts of problems like you see there. This is fairly dry, this is very, very wet. The two will not be bedfellows, so you've either got to bring them together very fast, or you end up with a horrible flush or bleed back or cauliflower, whatever you want to call them. Now it does get quite pale up there, so I don't want to introduce any really hot colours. Anything is going to be a very dulled down, muted versions of reds and other values, moving on up into here and just coming down under one or two of these windows. A little bit of colour, nothing too much, maybe even a little bit of blue violets into what will be some of these doors, maybe a little stronger than that. That's too strong. Let's come back from there, give that a nice dirty dark in here to that door, that window there, and up into this window like so. Just little taps, they're all that's need to be to suggest that we've got doorways and edges of this, that and the other working out. And there are lovely subtle blues. Actually, I'm going to go in with some cerulean blue. Sorry, not cerulean blue. Telling a lie. Yeah, why not cerulean blue? Let's come in with some cerulean blue. Very subtle little tints of very lovely blues. And I'm going to put those in. Like so, and I'm not even mixing colour, I'm just coming straight in with the value and letting that work with the paintworks. The light into there, a bit more. Going to come into these lintel recesses. Oh. That's a bit strong, so I'm going to tease that out, get rid of that, that wasn't meant to happen. Just going to tease that out and bring that down through the face of this stonework, like that. And the same on this, the same on the other one, but we're not doing the other one, so a rather daft statement. But there you get the idea, and I'm going to come in with a bit of cerulean and a bit of the other blue too, just to take it off, and put that through the face there, and on these through here like so. Okay, and we've got a little deeper yellow on the top, so I'm going to come back in with a bit of the cerulean, but a bit of raw sienna just to come in through the tops of the lintels on these two windows here. Let them dry up, nothing more needed, not for the moment anyway. Now we're going to look at the recess on this doorway, so let's just come in and work on that. Let's put a bit of dark in. Now what I should have done, and I've missed it, so I just tap that back off very, very quickly. I'm going to leave that to dry up now before I come back in. But I have a chance just to leave a little bit of that white lintel. May have to go in and augment it later, but certainly I can keep a hold of it a little bit right now. So I'm going to use that blue, come in with a dirtier violet, and just suggest some of these windows in here and here and here. Oh. And that's bleeding, so that's obviously a lot wetter there, and I'm going to take off the edge. Dry that back, just using a damp brush, nothing more. It's taking off the water around the area that I don't want it to bleed, and therefore it's restricting the pigment from moving beyond the area that I want it to. So it's just very quick action just to stop that bleeding back. You can see what I'm doing, tapping an almost dry brush right against the mark and just sapping up all that moisture that is preventing that from moving. I think that just about gets away with it. But I do have lost a little bit of that red value underneath. So a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of red back in, and let's just bring up some of that lovely flush of orangey pink colour under those two windows, and we'll come back into that in a little while. Right, let's turn our attentions to the boat for a little while. Let this whole area dry up before we come back into that. Sonia, good evening to you. Thank you for joining. And yeah, that's cool. Thank you ever so much. Right, our boat. Now it is a red boat, but it's not just red. It's so much more than red. And we got to get that in. So first and foremost, let's come in. Let's clean our palette out in one of them. Let's come in with the red that we think we're going to need. And for that, I'm actually going to use the opaque red. I'm going to be using cadmium red, which is opaque. And I'm just going to come in and cover the whole of the boat up, right up to the front of the bow, like so. We are going to, it's not going to be the only covering, but it will be, and it's a lot of wet I've just picked up. That's another thing you've got to watch for. If you get wet patches down on the paper here, you put your wrist in them there, you don't realise, you put your wrist somewhere else and you end up depositing water where you really don't want it to be. Okay, so we've got that lovely colour there, and we're going to take it all the way along the waterline, like so, and just let that dry up now. That is a first coat. Do want to get rid of that little drip as best I can. And just let it settle. I'll come back onto that in a little while, but it is just the first coat. Okay, now as regards the rest of it, we can put in some lovely blue, some lovely cerulean blue, and let's just come in with that lovely colour around the back of the boat here, like so. Lovely shape. Take some of the pressure off of that, lighten it up, and as that dries out, that will become a lot lighter. Let's bring some through here. There is some sort of, I can't see, I think they're on the front of the boat here. They are actually here. I'm going to put one there, and there's one I've actually missed over here. I hopefully, like that, just be able to get it back in. I think they must be something to do as or paddle or oar rests. I'm not quite sure if that's correct, but that's what they seem to be to me. Okay, we'll leave it at that. There should be a bit of a gap under there, which I have missed. I can see I've missed it. Now, it won't correspond with the photo because the photo shows the back of the boat up against the wall of the building. And my drawing in that regard is a little out. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I will come back in, and whatever happens to be there, which will be the darkness of the water, should still give me the same effect. But it does need to be dry. James, good evening. You have a question about dagger brushes. How long is best for length of bristles for general use? Well, that's a good question. Obviously, the different sizes, if you're looking at daggers generally, you've got two types. Let me just try and explain. As these are watercolor versions. So there is a dagger. You can see that it's quite a angle and quite a stout angle. This, however, sitting next to it is what's called a sword liner brush. Now, it does have a taper this way, and it does have a real strong taper that way. Now, when they wet up, you can see very clearly the differences in the brush. So the taper on this one, this makes for a very exciting brush if you want to make very activated paint in terms of lots of scribbly, scratchy marks, flicks and all sorts of things with foliage. This really does answer your call. This one is like the oil versions of the brush where you've got the good tip, you've got the broad side, and you've got the straightness of the dagger. So hopefully that will answer that query. With regards to oil painting versions, let me just see if I can find very similar brushes. Forgive the goop on this one, I've just spotted it. Let's try and clean that off, because that's really not the best way to leave a brush. I'll have to give that a clean up after this session. It's just picked up a piece of old liquid and started to dry. But very much the same sort of thing is going on here. Let me get a dark version of that. Actually, it's very hard to see against the paper. Okay, now this is a dagger in oil. Okay, very much the same principle. And this is the version in oil of a sword liner. I can't wet them up for you in the same way, but you can certainly see that they are not too dissimilar in design, and they both have very, very similar actions. So hopefully that will give you the answer you seek, and if not, come back with me if you want me to add to that, if there's something I haven't quite answered for you. But what I do have to do is get rid of all this oil paint that I seem to have deposited on my hands by doing that. I just didn't realise. I just see there's a whole lump of paint on some of these brushes which I hadn't spotted. So before I deposit that over anything else, I will just clean. Bear with me, people. And if you don't like it, blame James. He started it by asking that question. Haha. Right, okay, well I hope that answers your question, James. I really do. Let us come back in and carry on with the brush that I was using, which I can't see now. Well, there it is. And let's just carry on. Okay, so let's start looking at our bridge just briefly. Very, very pale colour into the brickwork here, so I'm just going to put that in. There's not much to it. You can't see too much. It would be a nice brick red, but from this distance it's quite a dirty violet red. I'm going to put that in like so and leave it as such. And we're going to leave the bit of brickwork, the corbelling on the design of this bridge. We're going to leave it as the original base colour we put in. I don't see the reason to change that. But I will go in with a dark pretty much straight away. And I've got, sorry, I didn't want that. I'm going to use some ultramarine blue, a little bit of this red version I got in here, a little bit of orange. That's too much, and it's just way too loud. So I don't really want that. Way too hot for where we're going with it. So let's just come back in, remix some blue, and this time I'm going to come in with some Indian red, maybe a little bit of burnt sienna. Burnt sienna. May even be a little touch of indigo into there. Just get that depth we want. Just come back in and let's just put that shape into our bridge underneath. Now here we want to be a little bit careful and canny too, because what we've got is we've got a lighter top. This area here is reflecting all the water, so I'm going to start lifting some of that pigment back out. It's almost like a reflected dark, like that. And then it gets very dark again. We're going to come back in with some more colour. And maybe a bit more burnt sienna. And let's just come back in along here. So as this bridge comes where it meets the water, it gets quite dark here because there's nothing allowing it to reflect. It comes down straight. Now I do want to leave a very slight area of water in the form of a little bit of negative space before we come back out like so. Now we've got a lovely little area of water just running through, catching the light on the top edge as it goes under the bridge, and that will come back square up here to there. And we've already established that this comes all the way through here and creates a nice sort of step affair, something like that. All right, we'll leave it at that for a second. Let's come in. We're going to change some of that dark. We're going to come in with a new mix. We're going to come in with some greens. There's quite a bit of orange in that green, but I don't want it that lively to start with. So I'm going to change it and going to put a lot more blue to that and let that come off and pick up some of that dark. And let's just suggest some of our lovely ripples in this area through here and under here. And it's got to be a lot more careful now. We've got to be very careful we don't overdo any areas, overstate or understate. We just want to have the ripples, which I think in this case is possibly something I can't quite make out, but there's a little ripple here, and I want them to become less as they come away. So I'm going to add some more water to these and just let them fizzle out for the moment, something like that. I can add to them, but at least that finishes them. And this one here equally so. We've got the edge of the bridge, and we're going to just let that fizzle out like so, and let that fizzle out as it disappears into whateverness. New term, new technical term, whateverness. There we go. I think we just achieved that quite nicely. Need another globe. Okay. Now then, this is drying up, so we will come back in a very short space of time. I do want to look, now the boat is dry, I'm going to come in with some vermilion into that dark mass that I had, not orange, more vermilion in there. Make a very deep red and keep my hands dry. That's the last thing I want to do, to create a problem. And let's come in and put the shadow side with this darker red in through here and leave negative space. So we're going to leave the edge, we're going to take right up to our pencil line there, and that pretty much deals with the shadow side of the boat, like so. Now then, look at the same values, maybe a touch more red to it, just change it slightly, come in underneath this nice white part of the boat, and this was actually staying quite yellowish as we saw, but because of the deep red that we're putting in now, so it does appear to give way and make it look a lot lighter, like so. Going to come down and I'm going to leave a little lead edge, which is the light catching the front part of the boat, and I'm going to put in a bit of a fresher red, just tapping a little bit of the vermilion on its own, punch that right into the front there, so that part is just picking up a bit more red as we take it backwards down to the waterline, which will have a degree of dark in it. Not yet though, like so. So we've got a lovely flush of red going in there, which is distinctly against that dark. Now you see this is paddling up. Let's just lift a bit of that out. Don't worry about that it suddenly changed colour. All the paint behind it will start flooding into it. Now there's quite a cool bluish colour, and I'm going to use a little bit of cobalt. I'm going to run that in through here. I'm going to lighten it up. Maybe even be put in a little bit of ultramarine blue. Just put that colour in and let that settle down to there, and then we come back in with this red again, run that in this way like that, and just let that whole thing settle up again. We've almost done 2 passes on our boat now. Yeah, that's what you weren't listening, Ben. I've already said that, mate. I've already said that that boy is protecting very old stonework. But I'm not putting it in. I also said that too. So there you go. Yeah, you didn't win that one, sir. Right. I am going to press on, and I want to come down with a degree of darkish colours. Just one simple line sort of suggesting down here, and it's quite green. I want it a bit darker than that, so I'm going to come a bit of indigo into that. Not that much indigo, make it a little bit warmer, but I don't want the line to be right up to the brickwork. I want to leave it so that there's little bits of white edge, the same as we did here. I want to do a very similar thing under all of this. So I'm just going to bring it all the way down very gently to the back of the boat and stop. And I'm going to do the same thing here, just leave a little bit of light paint all the way through there, and that is our little bit of reflective light at the bottom. Wet bricks or whatever they might be. But before that dries up, I do want certainly here to come in with a bit of dark into there, like so, because that really does get a lot of dark, which is reflecting the bricks into the water, and you start getting a little bit of movement, something like this, in one or two places, and you get one or two extra little colours start to form. So we're going to bring maybe a little bit of warmth into that colour there, a little bit of red just creeping in one or two places. We've got the base colour here, but we could indeed put some more in. So let's just take out some of this colour here, because what I want to put in, if I can get away with it, is I want to come in with some pure cobalt turquoise. This is a beautiful colour. If I get it right, mix up enough of it so I don't keep having to come back. And let's just look at bringing some of that in through here. Beautiful colour into edges of the side of the boat, like so, and bring that down in a large sway. And there's going to be one or two. See this window here, we can bring that down like that. We can start putting the reflection of that in, mixing up a lot more of that cobalt turquoise. Beautiful colour. Get some of that really going, and then taking this window here, we can bring that down through there like so. Just popping the colour in like that. It really does work. Bring the same thing through this one here. There's another one. We can do all sorts of things, make them marry, join up with the ripples. Take it on through to the base, because this one is a lot longer than these ones. So you get the idea that that pretty much set itself up. And we can do the same with the other areas as well. But first off, I want to put that grungy reddish colour. It's quite dirty. And let's just tap some in first. Okay, that's not bad. But what I do need to do is come in with some more turquoise. But I want to make it darker. So I'm going to actually add, not that, wrong colour. Wrong colour. Let's come back with a turquoise like so. And let us put in, actually I think that's a little bit of green, another value, put that in, and let's just come under the boat. Now once again, I want to leave a little bit of a white line around the boat edge, especially at the back, and bring that first, that really immediate dark into this area around here like so. Take that all the way up there. Now you can see I've flushed back into the red, because the red as yet is not dry. Now I want to come in with the darker side of the boat in its reflection through here. So I'm going to put some of that into there, so we get that sense of that reflection, like so. And then we've got a slightly reddier colour that runs into here. Let's just play around with that for a short while. More colour on my brush, and that comes out there. Now this colour is going to be representing the lovely dark at the base of the boat, which is lucky for me, because these two bits of green have literally just decided that they're going to go backwards into the other pigments. So we're going to leave that like so, and just going to put in a few ripply shapes moving forward on this, and bring that all the way down to a point down here somewhere. Okay, And I think that works. We're going to leave that to dry up now because I've got to do a bit more work with that before we finish. Not a problem, Ben. I was on the ball. I had that one covered. Right, I'm just going to come in with, I want to get some more of that lovely cobalt turquoise working again. It's such a wonderful colour. And I want to lay that in here, but I do need it to be dry. So I'm going to be going in other places because I'm going to bring some off into this here. And bring a little sway of that out off the page. Like so. Let that come in and just play and set up. Maybe just a bit through here too. And look at some of these other shapes and reflections. Now we've got this lovely brickwork in here which we haven't really addressed, so let's leave the water to do what it wants to do for the moment. Let's just come back and look at some of these other shapes and forms in here, and I'm not going to be trying to put in brickwork. That's the last thing you'll see me do. What I am, however, going to try and do is to suggest that there are little forms, and by breaking the paint up in certain ways like this, you start to suggest that there's broken bits of mortar and all the plaster's broken away through age and what have you, and so you get to see all sorts of other things. I'm just trying to catch up with where I am, and maybe a little bit under there. It's a bit too wet, that brush. I actually literally have run out of paper. One more piece over there and I'll start on the blue stuff. Yes, so what I was saying, just having enough bits of pigment made up to be able to come in with a fairly dry brush like so, and then just skip around, dry that off because that went on a bit too wet. But then you can come back in and you can skip around and make these little statements of colour like so, down to the water's edge like that. Bit of blue, bit of the red, dirty that up, that's nice. Right, we can then look at some of these places as well. We've got a little bit up around the edges of these windows. That's a little bit too heavy, if I'm honest with you, because I don't want to detract from the edge of the window. So I just lifted that off. There is a darker value that runs up the side here, so let's just put that in, and you can see how that dry brush is skipping over the top of the heavy paper, and that's why I use the heavy paper. The washes go on fine, that's no problems with that. It will flow into all the little crevices as it comes down the paper. But what I wanted it to do, let's just take that off there. What I wanted it also to do was to, when I need it to, with a fairly dry brush, is let it skim over the top and deposit paint in one or two places only. Just going to come back with a little stronger yellow mix with some raw sienna. Just come under one or two of these other places, like up in there, and dampen that off a little bit too strong. Down through there, and suggest one or two other bits of brickwork and stuff going on out the back here. Nothing much, it's barely there, just enough to register something for the viewer. Okay, and now while this is happening, we can look at putting a little bit more information into some of these areas closer to. A little bit more of the darks, take the worst of it off, and just check in here. A little bit of darkness in there, one or two places. And it comes quite cool on the other side, so we're going to put in some of this blue that we had from before. A little bit in there, scratching it around, depositing it in little bits like so. little bit down through there. And here we can actually start suggesting a little bit of relief on that part of the wall. And using the same values, we can come around a little bit darker. No, darker than that. It needs to be darker than that. So a little bit of violet into that blue, a bit of that red into that blue. Just make a slightly darker mix. And I might well come back to a, I'm going to come back to a smaller brush. We're leaving too much water depositing, rushing off of the brush. So I'm going to come in with a smaller round brush. This is a synthetic round brush. It's ideal for the purpose. Does a great job. Doesn't need to worry about holding tons and tons of water. So it works very, very well and does its job. Okay, so I am now... There's a lot going on in this painting, I've got to say. There's a lot going on. Alright, so I do want to start getting some darks up in here very soon as well. So, in the meantime, I'm just going to mix up, I said dark, not that quickly. Alright, I'm going to come in with a little bit of burnt umber, a little bit of that, play around with that, and see where we need to be. Yeah, not there yet. So I'm just going to come back, tap off a little bit, because we've got this dark wall here and still not quite sure what it is, but I want to put something about that in place. So it's quite sort of banded and structural, like so. I don't quite know what it is, but there's a light edge on the other side. So we're going to put that down. There's a white passage, we're going to leave that, and we're just going to come back into there. And then there's a little bit of wall, and that gets quite dark in there. I'm going to actually add to that, take that up, and then I want to come in with our darker values, a little bit of cobalt into that blue, just check that, and then come back in here where we went before. We didn't actually pay enough attention, so now we're going to come back in again, a little bit more water to make the pigment move around, and actually add a little bit of cerulean to that mix too. Neat, straight in. He wishes he hadn't, but neatly straight in. Boom, take some of that back out. That's just too aggressive. Alright, now that has stained the paper, so I'm going to come in with a little bit of that yellow. This door seems to be wanting to present a bit of a problem to me. We're going to let that settle down, and we're going to use the colours now just to get that back where it should be. I'm going to take that down, give that a nice shape to the archway, and that will come around this way. Quite dark up the top, something like that. Let that come down to a very thin line down through there to meet that part there. Work into this pigment, let that loosen off. And I think that'll dry out quite nicely. It just went a little bit screwy for a second, and that area we know comes down to a point that's level there, and then goes off into brickwork. So that's going to put that down through there like that. Take this all the way down to the edge, because that is darker and that is brickwork. So I'm just going to take that down through there, so we've got a hard edge against everything else, and then we can take that down into the top of the boat, and that will then throw out the top white of that boat. So there's our door entrance, and it wasn't too bad. I think these could have been maybe a little lower at this point than I've allowed, but I'm not overly worried about it. Just going to come in with a little bit of dark. No, I'm not, because that's going to just bleed, so stay clear. So I'm going to come back in with the semi-darks and go back to these lintels. They should be nice and dry now. Little marks, little shapes, little taps, like so. We can draw our side in, like so. And underneath our lintels. Put a little shadow area under there, into there. If you want to add to that, we can just take that there and run that in, because we've got that dark area underneath the wall through here. So let's just run that out like so. What we've got is a nice hard edge, which is the direct shadow underneath the lintel, but then we have bled the whole thing away so that it doesn't cause any issues with lights and darks further on. And we can just play around with a few color values in here that are suggestive of broken mortar, whatever it might be that's going on down in here, like so. And if you want to lose any of them, you can. And you come back in with some of these orangey reds that are in here. Just play around, because you're not trying to paint bricks. I stress that. We are just literally letting the brush touch base and deposit pigment wherever it feels the need to at the time. Like so. And then we've got to come back into that lovely deep, not that colour green, a little bit different to that. Maybe a tap of red into that. And we get this richer green that runs through, staining all these bricks at water level, like so. Take that right up to the boat. Now I know you can see little highlights on bricks, and I'm not trying to paint those. I really am not. You've got little bits of light that are sort of reflecting like so, where bricks are reflecting into the water. At least the mortar lines are reflecting into the water. That works. That's not a problem. But I'm not going to try and paint lights and darks on all these mortar lines. It really isn't about that. I'm going to come back in, and I am going to put in a little bit of magenta into some of that blue, and I just want to come down with this light darker value. Maybe a little too heavy, but we'll see how that goes. All the way down and run that into there. That is the shadow side of that area on these brick areas. Now I can just temporarily lighten that up a little bit if I feel it was too heavy. I did think it was a little bit. And I've got to come down with the area on just getting, there's not, I keep mistaking I've got two of these, and there's only the one. So I'm going to put in a little bit of a dark area there and bring that down through into there. Okay, now I do or would like to have suggested a bit of light there. If I can do it, I want to just lift a bit of that blue at that point. It should allow me, if I just work at it very, very gently, dampen it up. You do run the risk of a cauliflower if you're not careful. It will just lift some of that pigment away, and then that will allow me to put a highlight on there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quite literally come in with a real darkish value. I should really use a big brush for this part, but we're just going to come in with it anyway. And just going to come in with the dark area here of this window, like so. Now I've left a little bit of an edge, and I'm not worried about that, because basically it's just suggesting a little bit of highlight on the brick to one side, and that's fine by me. Just bring that in and let that come all the way down. Oh, you want to do that? All the way down here to that point there. Keep this little bead of light coming down the edge of the wall, like so, and let that come into the bottom of here. Like that. Okay, we've got one window sorted. Joanna, happy birthday from California. Love your tutorials. Thank you very much. Ah, that's cool, Joanna. Thank you so much. I seem to have be floating paper in my watercolor. Can everybody just excuse me for about a minute or two? I just want to replenish my water's got really grungy and I just want to go and get some fresh. Bear with me, I'll be straight back. Sorry about that. Not a problem. Sonia, good evening and thank you very much for the birthday wishes. Very kind of you. My water got so dirty I just had to go and change it, but not a problem. We are moving on and we are coming in on this one quite nicely. I'm working predominantly between the two brushes, the thicker and a thinner round, and I'm going to use the thicker one now just to come in with these other two windows here, and they are grilled, but I'm not going to attempt to try and put those in. I just want to get the darks in against the sills and just checking how they look there. To side, take that one all the way down, nice to the base. A little dip in the shape of there, and the sill I'm leaving just the odd little tap of light to suggest that it's just picking up a little bit of highlight. And do the same thing on this one here, right up underneath the sill, down this side here to there. It's a little paler, if I'm honest, than the first, but we're going to probably get them fairly similar. And I've got a lot more gap between my two windows. Again, I'm not overly worried. As long as this looks like a Venice side street at the end of the day, I'll be more than happy. Can I take that all the way down through there? My seal is a little bit on the high side at that point. Just put that in there, and we've got that one done too. All right. Now, I'm not quite sure what this structure is. I don't know if it's part of the base of something. I'm not sure even if I really want to put it in. I'm going to, because it is the reason for some of that shadow. So I'm just going to come in and create a little bit of a dark shape form up there. It comes in a bit closer. Like so, something like that. Got a big scallop of shadow underneath. And I think we're just going to leave it at that. And there's maybe a little yellowish, slightly darker shadow immediately beneath it. So I'm going to put that in there like so. Take some moisture and just pull that paint down like so. And if needs be like this, just use the bigger brush just to draw it out. Something like that. And leave it no more than that. Don't need to do any more than that. There's something in this wall here, but I can't see at all what that is, and I'm not really going to attempt it. What I'm going to do is use a little bit of this brownish red, maybe a bit more red into that from the Indian red, and just tap in and just come down. And I can do that probably better with a bigger brush. Come in, tap it off, and just scratch in a little bit of something that's coming down the side here into this, that comes down into this doorway like that, down the side of these windows. And literally I am just tapping the paint on in different places like that. Right, where have we got to go next? Have I missed any of the chat before I carry on? Just making sure that it's not running away. No, that's it. Sonia is the last person to have said anything. Okay, so we're working back up the avenue, and the dark, which I've lost altogether now. So I'm going to put a bit of red, a little bit of magenta, orange, make my dark again, and there's a little bit of dark down through there. So I'm just going to suggest that in like so, nothing much, and there is a little bit of relaxed dark, that's the better way of putting it, around the edge of this door, which is actually partly there. I'm just going to put a little bit down through there, just suggesting a little bit of interest with that little bit of stonework there. There's that little bit of shadow which I have got to put in there, shadow part of that stone. Blot it a little bit because it gets a little bit up through there. Okay, and could do a little bit of warmth in one or two areas through here, nothing much, just to break some of that up and make it look a little bit more bricks. I think that's fine. I'm not going to overwork that area at all. I'm going to come in with some violet now. I'm just going to look at some of these recesses on other areas. I don't want to do too much to that door, but the windows this side of it here, just a bit darker through there. Excuse me. And there are little slits of the windows that we can see in there. There's one window, look at that. Bang, one. Two windows, two. Three windows. Three windows done. Okay, and that's all they really need to be. Three windows. Quickly painted. And you've got this area that we're going to take that up a little higher. There, I'm not quite, still don't know what that is. Right. We have some form of drain, which I am going to put in. So I'm going to rest my hand and I'm just going to take a line from the top. And it comes in below this window, so I'm going to see if I can get that nailed in. Something like that. Good job I'm not a Venetian plumber, I would have been out of a job. There you go, that's a bit better. And I think there's something up here as well, but there are other windows. I'm going to just suggest a bit lighter in the dark. Come down here with another sort of line, maybe a bit stronger than that. So, and then we've got a couple of other windows which I want to suggest now, a little stronger. One there and one there. There's a little tap of top of the lintel across there, and just to give them a little bit of shape and form like that. So we know the windows. There's a little bit around the top of the archway on this thing, like so. And there's a little bit of dark up into the top of that arch. I'm going to put that in. And then there's quite a significant dark window. There's another sort of pipe that's coming this side. It comes all the way down How am I going to make that? Alright, let's just come down very carefully. Not that careful, come on. Take it down, so far, move, bring it on down. So, not too bad. We got away with that one. And right beside it are the windows. So there's the arch. I'm going to bring that one out a little bit more and just give that a bit more in there. Then come back up to this one. There's another one up in here. We've significantly got a bit more dark showing of it. It's just on a different angle to the other ones, I think. And just a very slight part of the lintel work above. Like so. And little recess dark, and then we come back out like something like that. Okay. I'm going to check our other areas. Now I'm not going to do anything, I don't think, to the other windows. These are just literally shapes and forms. I am just going to come in here with the lovely balustrade. Lovely patterns. I'm not quite sure what they are, but just going to dance the brush around and then just come in with the uprights to those like that. Going to come in now with some little warmer darks that are suggestive of relief on the stonework of the bridge, like so, and down here it comes up to meet it like that, and a couple of taps this way are different shapes in stones and in how it's all put together, and that comes all the way down through there and down there like that. So our bridge has taken shape. I'm not going to put the flower pot in before anyone asks, but there is another suggestive line down through there. I don't know what it is. And there is another, what looks like a water pipe or drain pipe or whatever that could be coming down through there. All of these little features start adding a little bit of extra weight to your overall painting and design and one thing and another. I'm going to come in here now with a little bit more dark, and I want to come in and address a little bit of shape to this that I've missed. So that's going to be all I really want to do to that. But what I have missed is the corbelling on the edge in the same way as this one's got. I've missed it on this one, so I'm just going to come on the outer side of that very carefully and just suggest it very quickly like so. Doesn't want to be much, just enough. And I don't need to try and put a line the other side. There is a simple trick to that, and that is just quite simply use the rough texture of the wall to come back in this side like that and suggest the light running around the edge of that archway, and that can then skip on up over to here and let it do what it wants to do. You can bring it right up under there. Now we've created the underside of the lintel just by scratching this. It's very dry brush. I'm not really depositing anything off the brush at all. Not worthwhile, but it just gives that extra little bit of dark to that part of the building. Okay, so that's looking okay. Let's just see what the time is. We're at 9:15. Lost a couple of people. I put 2 or 3 to sleep. We've still got all this to do yet, so I better hurry up. All right, I just want to put in the lovely shape of this beautiful lamp on the wall, like so. Nice steady hand, and just create a little bit of lattice work, which is the top, and then you can see just a little bit of light coming through there. Here we might well use just a little bit of body colour just to bring that light back if I can get away with it. There's our light, and I think that I did say that above here there were some more windows, but I put them lower than were, so I'm actually going to take them way off. I'm going to take them right up to here So take them way off like so. 2 more windows. Let's go for 3 more windows. Doesn't matter that I can't count properly. That just gives a little bit of top entrance to the top of the painting. And let's just bring in a little bit of shadow underneath these. Like so. A little bit of shadow under that one. A little bit under that one. And that gives that whole area there a nice little finish. We can actually, if we want to, just give, because there are some little shapes underneath these windows, and I just want to put that, suggest those little bits of marble supports under the window ledge. So I'm going to put those in very subtly. It's a little bit more dark into one part of these windows. There we go. That works. We'll leave it at that on that one. So pretty much we're done on this top. I keep looking at this area here and seeing what I'm missing. I'm sure there's something that's very, very soft, but there are some very, very dark accents at the base. So let's just look at this area along here. We've got a lot of dark, wet, greeny colours that are sort of staining the edges of the walls in different places, like this. Okay, and we're going to come, and we're going to look at several of those. There's this is a doorway here, which I've actually not illustrated properly, but there's quite a wet part. So let's put a step in there and then a bit of dark up through there, like that. And then it comes through with a dark edge. There's a green edge through there. So let's put that in through there. Losing some of that bead that we put in earlier, that's not a problem. Like that. Now I also said that that's going to have some dark in there, so I'm going to put that in there, because that's a little hole that's cut in the back of the boat in the shape. There's 1 or 2 areas of dark up in here, and then that goes all the way up into this section up in here, like so. Soften some of these because they're really a long way off, but not here. As they get a little closer, we're going to leave them quite strong. I don't really want to do any more to that. I need to now concentrate with a bigger brush on some of our lovely reflections, and we're going to enhance some of the little colours that we started off with. So for here, for instance, we're going to put in a little bit of a cooler red just coming down through here and there, and let that come into there, and just mixing it up a little bit with all the other colours. A little bit more red in there. Just checking the time. Where are we? 1 hour, almost 2 hours. Good Lord. I do apologise everyone. I never do these very fast. But I'm just going to put in some lovely reflections from different things that we can see up on the walls. Some of them very subtle. And 1 or 2 in here. I want to put in a little bit more of that blue value. Not as strong a blue. Actually, it's quite a green blue, so I'm going to use quite a bit of that lovely cobalt turquoise into it too. And just suggest that there is that doorway being reflected. And that will disappear. Looking at other shapes and other forms. We're going to do something in here, and that's the other thing I was going to do. Now this is dry, I can actually work into this area. Clean that out in that pan. And then I'm just going to come in and put this wonderful lovely blue, lovely turquoise blue into here, and out through the back there. And then there are all sorts of other blues coming down. Some of them are going to be chased with a bit of darker values, but some of these sort of this area here and this one here is sort of coming down through here, and add to that one, and you've got other areas that are above the boat. These ones here, they are sort of coming out in here like so, and coming with a little bit more blues. That's quite a nice blue. I'm not sure what that blue is. I have to look that one up again. But that's just nice, bringing that deeper value under there. And then let's use some of that with some red, some of that blue, and just take that dark underneath the boat. Got to preserve that lovely little bit of white lining. It does disappear towards the end, well, this part of the boat, but now we've got that nice dark, which is what we've been looking for, waiting for. It just soften around the top there and on that side there. We've got some more, and we've got that part of the boat sorted out. And there's a little bit of neat vermilion just in there, just so I can put that in. Taking that up to the side, and then a little bit of dark in there, a little bit of the same of that blue, and really I want to get this darker in this side. This is way too light, and we need to put in that dark down to there, and there's a little bit of it up under here which I just need to put in. That's the softness. Maybe a little more cadmium red into that, as that comes up into a little line to there. And then we've got a slightly different red coming down through here, much more strength into it, and let that come into this darkness at the base of the boat. Take it all the way through there like so. There we go. Now we've still got that little flush there, but I don't think we can do too much to it without causing a big problem further on. I'm going to let it settle down, and then I'm just going to put in a little bit of a deeper, darker area through this part here, like that. Let that run all the way through, and catching the part of the boat that's here in the reflection like so. We're just going to strengthen that line into the edge of this reflection here. And we've got one or two darks in here which I'm also playing around with. Little shapes of things that are just in the eddies of the water at this point. Running down. Little leading lines. These are going to really work, excuse it, really work for you. I'm going to put some more cobalt to that mix now. Let it come back out into here. Dragging the brush quite aggressively through this to create these subtle marks into the water, and a little bit more red. That's probably a little too much. I should put some of that green to that. Not quite where I wanted it to be, but we can move that, get rid of some of that, come back in with that blue, a bit more red, just take out some of that edge off there. Okay, I don't want to do too much because the tone in here to me is pretty much bang on, so I just wanted to just enliven some of these as they go into the dark, so the green, which then brings that green out a much lighter, and that's what I was trying to do. I think that's fine. I think we can live with that. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. Reflections on the water, it's not that they're difficult to paint, Sonia, it's that there are so many of them, it's actually making them look convincing. And it's a little step, a little bit of a time, you know, before you commit to it. And it's very easy just to miss where you are and completely miss a whole reflection that you didn't want to do. But at the end of the day also, that, you know, they're not an exact, it doesn't matter if every mark I make here is an exact place where you know, it is on the photo reference. I mean, it's merely trying to convey the essence of the painting more than the actuality of the painting, or the reference, should I say, not so much the painting. A little bit of that into there, and let's just come down. There's another dark in here, which is quite a strong one. Actually, I'm going to change the brush, go back to the small one. Just play around with some of these little shapes and marks coming down through here. Little taps, little delicate taps now. These are little dark areas in here which want to come out into the water. The dark area there. And there are some quite dark areas up in here as well. I'll put a little bit more of that green to that. And there's quite a bit of dark in there which I don't want to miss. And there's little bits of everything that are going on. There's quite, whatever that line there is, sort of coming down into the water this way, and a lot more agitation in the water as it comes down through here, so it sort of dissipates a lot quicker. And the same through here, there's, I'm guessing, well, I can see here, these windows here are quite heavily, they start small and then they just get quite heavy about there. So let's come in with those. Let's just put in one or two heavier marks through here, which are these windows. And this one here. Could be a little greener than I've given them. I put a little bit too much red in, so I'm going to actually put a little bit more green straight in over the damp paint. And that will come up greener. And this one wants to have, as this one does, one or two taps through here, like so. Where are we going? Sonia, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be so glib over it. I hope I wasn't. It wasn't meant to come out quite like that. I just, yeah. I sometimes forget that I've been doing this for so long that it, you know, I won't use the word, well, I did, water off a duck's back. It's not. It's just, it's, you know, it is what it is. And if everything I do in these demos help you a little bit closer to where you want to be, then that's, to me, that's a win-win, because I get enjoyment from helping everybody to achieve a little bit more with their work. And if every time you see something you take from it clicks, and you can move on with that in your own work, then that's really what it's all about for me, certainly. I don't quite know. There's something there. I probably missed it. I got a sneaky feeling that pole there should be there, but I'm not worried about it. I'm going to put something there just to suggest that there's something going on. And let's just come back to these areas over here. There is a lot more green, and tap a little bit of raw sienna into that to see where that takes that. And there's lots of other colours going on. Now we've got this big doorway, this area here which needs to be put in. And it seems that my Siri has decided to talk to me again. I don't know why it suddenly does that, but it does. Can I put some very strong greens into some of these too? There's that dark in there. I'm going to put it in, but I could well come back with a little bit of dark colour into there. And 1 or 2 marks through here. And just make 1 or 2 gestures of ripples where you're taking the paint the other way in different other places, like this. Suddenly little dive down with the brush and make it skip, like so. Maybe a little warmth into 1 or 2 of these, like that. And take some of that colour into there. Get that a little bit deeper in 1 or 2 here. And sometimes you get a little dark. If you look at these ripples, they got a little dark outer rim to them, like so. And you can run those into some of these ones like that and join a couple up, like so. And you get that happening so often. You get a little shape running off of here, and you get ripples and darks and lights within lighter tones, like so. And maybe make more some of these. Try hard never to overwork, just do what is enough. So we're creating lots of different marks and shapes, some of them a little coming out a little too far, as it were, and just mixing it all up. One or two darks in there. And it's quite warm in 1 or 2 of those places. Actually add a little bit of green and a little bit of warm value in here. So we can do a little bit of glazing of one colour now over some of the others to create a little bit of dark of this window, for instance, coming down. A little bit of red, a little bit of green, but something that's a little bit darker. And now we suggest the weight of this reflection coming all the way down through. And as we said, this one goes all the way out of the picture. So I'm going to pick up on some of those like that. And that's like the shadowy side. And that takes that window out of our image, and we can use some of these colours. We can bring some across like so, and we get lovely little subtle variations, taking that out through there, little curvature there. All these little taps, that's all it is, just little play arounds. You can bring a little shape like that in and create little extra darks across that which is already dark or that which is already painted. You create another layer of reflection. Here we've got this red, so we can actually bring that into, and we can take that out like so, and we can run it through like that, and we create more. You just don't want to do too much. Hi, poor everyone. I'm so sorry, late again. I've been busy evening, lost track of time. I'll go back and watch the start later. Looks amazing. Seems you've missed quite a good one. Well, you have missed one. Hopefully it's a good one. I've enjoyed it. We are almost at, oh, good Lord, we're 10 minutes over time. I do apologise, but I think there's a little bit of red towel that's not visible up there. Well, it is. It's like an awning. I'm going to actually suggest it. I'm going to put this little bit of red awning up in here, like so. I'm going to give it a bit of a shadow side, but then that gives me a good reason to tap in just a little bit of red like that, just an extra accent. Soft, take some off, doesn't want to be too much, like so, and then come in with a little bit of that, with a bit of violet to that, so you darken down that red area, and then just put in a little bit of shape to our awning. I think there must be a base, but my lettering goes right through that, so I can't quite see it. I'm guessing by the fact that this has got a little bit of lining in one or two places that is what we're seeing, like so. Alright, just a little bit more. Bear with me, everybody. I'm sorry it's dragging on a little bit, but hopefully you can stay with it to the end. We're almost there. I'm just going to come into the internal part of the boat. I want to leave a little light area at the top, so I'm going to leave that. It's a bit strong. I'm going to come in with a bit more of the blues and take that out like so. I want to lose some of that, so I'm going to take that down to the edge and drag that water. This is just water dragging off the excess pigment that's a bit heavy to the edge, so we've got the inside of the boat now working as we would like. Alright, now I've got the underside, which has got this lovely tealy colour, and that is going to be under here because these are at a lovely angle, so they flay outwards. It's got a little yellowish point to the top here, which I haven't got in. I'll put that in, and it goes down around here like so, and the same on the other side, but it's a lot shadowy, a lot more shadow onto that, so I'm going to put that in there like so, and leave it like that for the moment. So that's pretty much the boat and that all sorted out. I haven't put in the mooring post. I'm going to put that in some orange, bit of indigo, mix the two together, make a really dark value. Look up where that is in relation to everything. It starts about there, but my drawing is out, so I can't actually do that. I do want it to come down near to the front of the boat, and I do want it to come, so I'm going to give it a bit more of a lean. I'm going to bring it from about there, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to bring it to there. Alright, now I'm going to give that more orange now, make it a little warmer, just tidy up the shape generally. Actually, I'm going to take it out and bring it right into that lovely bit of light running through there, taking it all the way down into the water about there. Now, I know that may be a bit bigger in terms of dimension to the boat itself, but I'm quite happy at that. I'm not worried. What I want to do is bring out the reflection of that all the way through here, like so, and add a bit more dark to that cobalt colour, make it a bit deeper as we can continue that on like so, coming all the way through. There we go. Gives that a nice little bit of 3 dimensions. Now, have I missed anything? I'm not sure. Ben, have I missed anything? Probably I have, but I think we've set the scene. I think we've pretty much done the painting. So we're going to leave that there for the moment. What I do want to do is come in after a quick plug, if I may, and just put one or two little bits of body colour. So I'm going to use straight out of the edge of the paint, and I'm just going to put in one or two little highlights to the boat, like so. And take off the top of that a little bit. That's better. A little bit of light through the back there. Doesn't really need that much at that point. Just on there. A bit on there. And I think there's enough here, but I'm just going to tap in one or two little bits of light down through there. And in here where I did miss a little bit. Like that. Where else? Maybe just a little bit of light on top of a couple of these sills. This one, like that. Don't think we need those. Maybe a little bit in there, and there, just suggest those. And you can keep going on and on and on. I did say I was going to put a little bit in this light, just to bring that glass back, catching the light there. And there is a little bit of light, and I'm not quite sure where I'm seeing it. So I'm going to leave it. There's a couple of little chinks of light in the water, but I'm going to leave them because I think it will just confuse matters. So I'm going to be quite happy with that and let that painting be, as it were, finished. I'm going to come in with a bit of dark, and I'm going to sign it through here. There we go, it's all signed. Now I'm just going to pull my reference photo down out of the way so I can see what you guys have been having to put up with looking at me. I don't think that's too bad. I think everything can be a little better. I do feel one thing I've missed, and I do want to just address, if I may. And that is, I want to put in a little bit of dark and a bit of blue on there, on that edge, and then there, a little bit of dark, just to give that a bit of relief, and I've lost one on there too. And then come back in with that bit of body colour, but I'm going to mix some cerulean to that, which is a bit of a cheat, but just going to liven up that blue there, because I did lose those two bits of rod there. Excuse me, and a bit on the back there, just wants strengthening. So now by putting that body colour into the paint, I've actually made the pigment very opaque, and that's why you're seeing it over and above all the others. So it was just a little just to finish that off. But that all done, I'm going to tear off the paper and let's see what it looks like with the big reveal. Let's take this, bear with me if I can. Oh, I know what happened there. I got it out of square, so I'm going to take this top piece off first. That's it. I said to you at the beginning that I actually cut this so badly that it was almost a centimetre out. Nearly there. There we go. Get that lined up again. There we are. Pull the camera out just a bit for it. There, okay. One Venetian side avenue. I don't know what you call them. Side canal, anyway. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a bit of fun. Everything can be done better, and everything works nicely or whatever. But I quite like this. I didn't realise you was there, Luke. And Luke, before you go, my man, thank you so much for sending me that information about the 37 going through at 1640 from Ashford. Sadly, I couldn't be there, and sadly, I also, even if I hadn't been doing this stream, I wouldn't have got there in time because I didn't see your message until about 10 minutes after it had already gone through Ashford. But thank you very much for thinking of me and let me know that the 37 was going through. That was great. So yes, there we are. I hope, as I say, I hope you've enjoyed it and got something from it. And I'm sort of looking at it now and thinking, you know, is this okay? Is that okay? Generally, it's not so bad. It looks all right until I look at it on screen. But yeah, I think for 2 hours of painting, I think we got quite a bit done, and I think that it sort of showed you one or two different bits and pieces of technique, and I think that above all is important when we do these demonstrations, that you actually gain something from it to move on with your own painting, as it were. And if we get a good picture from it at the end, so the better for it. I don't think it's too bad. I quite enjoyed doing it. As I say, there was a lot to complete, and I think I'm surprised that, you know, we're at 22 minutes past 2 hours, and we have only just finished. So it's not the longest stream that I've done, guys, but it's certainly getting up there close. But there you go. Yeah, I probably will. That's a very good point, John, is that I do sit over these images for the entire period of the stream, and I do get too close in that sense. Oh, I'm quiet, is it? Okay, I do apologise for that, Ben. I didn't realise. But I can do that as we speak right now. There we go. Now, is that better? Hopefully that's a little better, Ben. I've just turned the volume up. I do appreciate you keeping an eye on things for me in that regard. So hopefully that's a little better now. I know it's a bit late, but there you go. Michael, thank you so much for watching. James, I'm glad you got here in the end, mate. I was just watching your video before I started the stream. That was really interesting, and I like what you're putting out. That was really good. So if any of you guys are trained people, get over to Bexhill West, because that's a channel well worth looking at. Yeah, so there we go. As I said, next Monday is an oil, and it's going to be English countryside. It's going to be trees in full leaf, greens, and all sorts of things. So hopefully that will be a nice little demonstration for you in oil, and we'll see what happens with that one. And don't forget, my patrons, if you're watching, even if you don't tell me you're watching, that's all of you. Jean and Wendy, Teresa, Charmaine, if you're still there, Judy. Don't forget, my patrons, that there is our Sunday evening stream. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. It could well be an oil for you this week. I think I did a sanguine charcoal stick for you last time, so we're going to probably do an oil. Not quite sure what the subject might be, but hopefully you'll enjoy it and it'll be fine. And I've just seen a little bit of highlight that's missing off the back of the boat there. I might have to put that in with a bit of body colour. But yeah, yes, thank you for my birthday wishes, everybody. Thank you so much for that. It's a great way to spend one's birthday evening with a whole lot of friends, and that's great. In this lockdown time, you can't get too close to too many people, so this is a great way of spending a birthday evening with all my friends. And I had a double whammy of that today, because I got to see my son, daughter-in-law and my little granddaughter today for about 3 hours over in their home, and that was fantastic. We sat out in the garden in the sun, great time. And that's been over 3 months since I've seen them, and that was fantastic. So I've had a great birthday, and as I said just now, it's great to spend the evening with a lot of friends around the world, as it seems to be coming. So yeah. What more can one ask for? I am just going to go and have a drink in a moment or two, just to celebrate my senior years. But yeah, Derek, good evening again, and thank you very much for that comment. I appreciate that, mate. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And sorry, Sue. Wish someone would have told me it was a bit quiet. But there you go. Judy, bye-bye. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget, Sunday evening, 7 o'clock, patrons. There's only 2 or 3 of you watching at the moment. We need more of you to watch. It makes it a lot more interesting by doing that. Sonia, thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you again, maybe, if lucky, on Monday. So that'd be great. Derek, take care, mate. See you Monday. And just looking at who and what is saying who and what. Charmaine, are you still there? Or have you disappeared? You might have gone. But if you are listening, say something. Let me know you're there. What else? Just checking I'm not missing anything from anybody. Thank you, Sonia. Certainly, I can't have too much of the former, but I'll have plenty of the latter. Thank you very much for that sentiment. All right. Well, time is cracking on. We've done 2.5 hours on this stream. I've really enjoyed it with everybody. Cheers, James. Hope you enjoy the start. A lot of fun, and yeah. I've enjoyed this anyway. It's been a bit of fun. Yes, okay, Judy. See you on Sunday. That's great. I'm guessing Charmaine's already gone. Teresa, are you still there? Don't know how to paint old brick wall effect. Glad you had a great birthday. Really enjoyed. Thanks. Hopefully, Teresa, you're going to latch onto Facebook and join our Patreon, and look forward to seeing you there maybe, and getting some more from the live streams. Now, any of you who are my regular students, please make contact with me. I know Wendy will, but any of you who are in class with me when lockdown started, we are thinking certainly of the Wednesday evening group, getting that back together. The moment that the government say that we can relax down from 2 to 1 metre, which is imminent, I want to get our classes back together. So yeah, have a look to that. Get in touch with me. I know Mike already has. Sue, maybe get in touch with me if you're able to, and thinking about coming back. That'd be fantastic. Joan, thank you very much for joining us. Hope to see you on Monday. That would be fantastic. And any one of you who are still watching, spread the word. If you've got friends who are artists who watch YouTube, then let them know about my streams and about my channel. And you know, it would be great to have more people come on and enjoy these twice weekly streams, and yeah, get more from it. But with all that said and done, I'm going to call it a day and bid each and every one of you a great weekend. and have fun, stay safe. Don't necessarily stay sober, but stay safe and have fun. And I catch you all on Monday night, and I look forward to that evening then. And in the meantime, I'm going to go get a drink and celebrate what's left of my birthday. Have fun, guys. Catch you all. Bye-bye. Goodbye, Ben. Goodbye, Wendy. Goodbye, Sue. I think everyone else is pretty gone. There's 10 watching. I'm not sure who else is watching. Whoever the 10 are, cheerio to you. Catch you all soon. Cheers, Wendy. Catch you soon. Okay, I'm stopping the stream now, guys. So bid each and every one of you a good, fond farewell.